GM, welcome to the Good Price Show. Super excited for today's show. I think this is episode 8 or 9. Honestly, I'm honestly not even sure, but we're here with Fast, obviously, and our special guest, Mr. Nam. Nam, how you doing?
Good, guys. I am just enjoying the sunshine in Tel Aviv for the Hacker House here. Had a busy day just looking over everything going on for Monkedao, but also learning from a bunch of the teams building here in Israel. So super happy to be here with you guys, and thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
For sure, for sure. We're super happy to have you. Um, Definitely. I'm like me personally. I'm super excited for this one because SMB really um, I guess kind of just shaped a lot for Solana NFTs in terms of like the PFP aspect, and also has a lot of historical significance, and also like a lot of personal, for myself, like
Yeah,
personal significance.
this was your
So
come up.
yeah, no, we love SMB, but yeah, yeah. How's Tel Aviv? How you doing?
Good. I spent the last 2 months in Asia working through Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, meeting with a ton of the different monkey communities and people there, just kind of spreading the good word and learning from everyone where I can. So honestly, it's very nice to be somewhere with less humidity because I am a poor Canadian boy and I cannot deal with sweating this much. So I'm really excited to spend a bunch of time here. And I mean, the hacker houses are one of the things that I love about Solana. I
Yeah,
haven't
no,
experienced this
fire.
anywhere else.
Yeah, no, we're super happy to obviously have you. I'm super jealous that you're traveling all over, dude. That's fucking sick. That's sick.
Yeah, it was
Is it exhausting?
yeah. I
It sounds
I
like
do not sleep the best, but I mean it's worth it. Like the thing that made me really convince, or the thing that really convinced me to go all into the space and to be a part of Solana was like Breakpoint 2 years ago, and getting to meet a ton of the people that like I had been idolizing online for the last year. And then just being able now to have my job be to travel the world to talk to monkeys to figure out the best way to lead the DAO forward and to help shape the future of Monkey DAO is a massive blessing. So if my worst thing is not sleeping a lot and small airplane seats, I think I'm doing pretty well.
yeah, no, for sure. Breakpoint was in Portugal, right?
Yeah, Lisbon for I believe the previous 3 years, but this time we are getting ready for Amsterdam, which I'm
Wow.
super excited about. I've never been, so getting to scope out a bunch of the areas for throwing monkey events and trying to figure out like what we want to do there has been a big topic of discussion inside of the Monkey DAO crew, getting ready to plan all these.
Wow. No, that's lit. I know everybody like I feel like a lot of people have that similar story in terms of the Solana space where they're like, damn, like we went to Lisbon and I just had like the greatest time. And they were just like they came back so pumped and so excited for like the future and the growth of Solana just in general. Not only on the NFT aspect, but like just in general, right? Like going to these parties, going to these events, meeting with people, um, you know, going to these presentations, and learning, right? Networking, learning. I feel like people really went from being like NFT degens to being like, wow, there might be actually something here, like in longevity. And I feel like there's a lot of people who like tell that same story. Um,
Yeah, going from meeting the people that like I had been talking to in like the Solana Discord at the start, or the people who helped start Monkey DAO, and like just getting to make a bunch of those connections together. And like online is great. It's fantastic to be able to talk to people. It's great to be, online constantly in Twitter and live by Telegram notifications. But there's really nothing to beat. One of my first experiences with Monkey DAO was just like in Lisbon on town hall, like sitting at a beach overlooking the waves and like randomly running into people who are a part of the DAO, and just getting to commiserate and talk through like all the shared experiences and everything that Solana NFTs have been through. And like obviously that was a euphoric time, and I think we all kind of wish we were back in November 2021. So it's good to look back on with fond memories.
Yeah, I think it's like I think there's like a lot of people in CT that don't really know what goes on at like the hacker houses. I think it's like a good thing to kind of just like readjust, and like you always hear all the time where people are like, "Oh, we're building," but like I think these like events are where you can like really see some of the like the shit going down. And so I think that's like what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, like today I was sitting back to back with Alejandro and like the Anybody's team looking at what they're getting ready to roll out for their new like user reward systems and platforms. And we're sitting there listening to heads at Circle talk about the problems and the goals around issuing stable coins and figuring out the ideas around like sustainable regulation, and then we get to listen to Vashi talk about the whole experience with greed, and it's the right level between like a conference where you just go listen to panels for 8 hours and an honest hackathon where it is devs working and people focusing on building things, and that always culminates in demo day where you get to see, for me, teams that I've been literally following around the world and seeing what they're looking to showcase versus teams that just started to pick all these things up and are now getting very excited about what they get to show off for Solana in general.
Yeah, it sounds like the Solana devs are always hard at work, and we love that. But let's shift gears a little bit. And I think a lot of people would like to know a lot more about Nam, like yourself, like I guess your history, your background, how you got into Solana NFTs, and your introduction, and I guess your journey up until now. Um, so if you want to give like I guess like navigate through your entire journey, um, I think a lot of people would be interested.
Yeah, so my kind of Solana experience really started as like trading in early mid 2021, where I was just looking at it as an asset that I was being involved with. I think like the SBF "sell me all your soul at $3" tweet is one of the things that just like ingrained at a pivotal moment for me, because I used to be doing a variety of different development work on not only EVM systems but also for masternodes and a various other things in crypto. I'd always been interested in developing and being a part of it. So while I was going through school for computer science, while I was working in my previous Web 2 roles, I'd always been adjacent to crypto. Like I'm someone who rode everything all the way up in 2017 and all the way down in 2018 because I really didn't learn enough in that cycle. So getting to be in Solana and having the exposure to that in early 2021, I think is something where I was like, literally for me, this time was different. And so from there, I got the opportunity to travel through a lot of different discords, get to listen to people like Armani and Jordan when they were developing the framework of what we know for Solana today, figuring out the Cope discord and the airdrop experiences very early on for like, this is how you get exposure to all the new projects, to learning about Saber from some friends early on and being able to see like, oh, okay, this is kind of where Solana DeFi is going. And then all of those different conversations and groups really led me to SMB. And I didn't get in there in time for the Gen 1 mints. I missed that, but I was able to be a part of it for the Gen 2, like the SMB that we kind of know today, and that mint. And from those conversations, that's where I met Jemmy OTC Trading, and I got invited into the original, Monkey Minting crew when we were all hyped about Degen Apes and how we were going to try to mint as many of those as possible. And then the formation of that turned into, a group of, okay, how do we help build out Solana DeFi and infrastructure? How do we start, identifying trading opportunities with like Solarian's rarity maps? A lot of fantastic devs like Hoke were, showing us things that probably weren't working as intended for the Solana NFT ecosystem, but were the formations of what turned into Monkedao, which is really designed to be not only a place of learning for people who are already exposed to or just joining Solana, but also to be a place for growing, projects and ideas and getting exposed to kind of the people who really want to lead the space and want to be involved in making the next very cool things. And from my time there, I started being a guy who was just answering notes was just taking notes and answering questions, in meetings in these early setups, to now I'm lucky enough to be the CEO of Monkedao, and I've experienced the last 2 years at this point of being a monkey and getting to represent this community all over the world.
So I know you touched on yourself becoming a member, and then there at the formation of there for the Gentument, and then also there for the formation of Monkedao. But how did you become CEO? Right there, to my understanding, there's a lot of Monkedao co-founders, right? And then how did you specifically become CEO, the face of Monkedao?
Yeah, I think that's something where so the structure of Monkedao has changed a lot, to kind of go into that. So it used to be a completely single level organization where everybody was just contributors, and Jemmy had control of the Discord server, but other than that, everybody was equal. And then we figured out that we needed some structure and some organization, so that turned into the basis of the committee structure, where we were organizing things like a monkey token very early on for the DAO. We were figuring out what the monkey pets were going to look like, and then as everybody continued to put their hands up and say, hey, I want to be in charge of this, or I want to do this thing, that naturally kind of developed into different leadership roles. And that culminated in how we formalized into our, board structure. So at that point, we identified, these are 8 different verticals that we really want to grow inside of the DAO. It was everything from, charitable activities to venture investing to being active in DeFi. And we selected 2 different members, for each one of those 8 verticals. And that's how we came up with a 16-person board. And the idea was that each of those people would have somebody that they could fall back on, because a lot of us were busy with other jobs. I was still working. Jemmy was busy at his fund. Ceylon started being involved with the Boogle organization. Legend was, still working his TradFi job at that point. Like, we were all working through other things, so we wanted to have fallbacks and reliability. And then the 16-person board, we ran for about a year, and then we realized that it needed to be restructured and reorganized at the end of last year. So we transitioned that from a 16-person organization to a 9-person board structure now, where I'm leading it as the CEO. I have 4 different appointed executives, and the DAO elects 4 other executives who are, organized as this kind of base of deciding what goes forward for the DAO and how we start allocating resources. We still use voting. We still, put through proposals where the members are able to go through with, whatever they want to see. But we really wanted to do kind of a central head structure, so that things like signing up DAO Foundation documents, rest on a couple of people's shoulders, rather than trying to get 1,900 monkeys to agree on whether we should be in the Caymans or BVI or the US or any other jurisdiction. So through all of that, I think I was just in the right spot, answering questions, being available to lead and help decide decisions. And luckily, I had the DAO back me in kind of the CEO role. It's been a big journey with a ton of ups and downs, and I'm super appreciative to everybody who has been a part of not only Monkedao's like leadership and core structures over the course of the last 2 years, but also just the general contributors and the members who make Monkedao fantastic. I don't think we have the perfect DAO structure just yet, but I know that we're constantly working on it, and we really want to make sure that we are doing what membership is looking for, and also making it so that it's a rewarding place to be a part of.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's kind of what everyone would ask for, right? Just to have like a vibrant community, listening to people's suggestions, where you should take things, where the next event should be, um, whatever things like that. I guess um, definitely are super super important. And I personally think like I was always comfortable with like one or two people, let's say at the head, like at the helm. Um, and I think like I personally think there just isn't a better suited person than you. Because I also think like we kind of align in terms of um, not only goals and passions, but like I guess where we see the space like in terms of growth, um, and how like maybe DAO should operate. So I think yourself, like I think it's really a really good um, place for you to be, because that's just where I feel like you fit best. And it's almost like you're not really too outspoken in terms of like dictatorship, and I think that's super important in terms of leadership as well. Uh, and that's something I really, really like. You're kind of just like giving hints, or like you're, especially on Twitter, right? Like, I honestly, I love when like you shake people, and that's because that where violence is, that's like where I'm like thriving, and that's where I'm like, wow, like I love this side of Nam. um, but yeah, that's just like a little side note. But yeah, I appreciate you going into depth about Monkedao and its history and all of that. And obviously now you have an upcoming mint with Gen 3, and I know that's like later this week, right?
Yeah, so the Gen 3 project is something that's been going on since November of 2022 at this point. The team behind it has been working, for 8 months, some of it in quiet, and some of it in public now. So this is culminating in the barrel claim. So we're taking a lot of inspiration and creating these adorable little barrels that are hiding your monkeys inside of them. So every single SMB Gen 2 is able to claim one starting tomorrow. It's Monday right now, the 26th, so that'll be the 27th, um, where you're able to get the jaded mint or the gated mint, sorry, for your barrel. You have 3 months to claim it. Obviously, a lot of people have monkeys on their ledgers and aren't carrying them around in hot wallets, so we don't expect everybody to be ready to hammer mint for however many monkeys they may have. So you've got 3 months in order to do that, for each one of these barrels. And then on Wednesday, we're doing the Monkedao exclusive presale. So not only does each Gen 2 have the opportunity to mint a barrel, for people who want more exposure to the Gen 3 project, there's 4 different tranches for the Monkedao presale. And we set that up basically to just like try to accommodate as many different time zones as possible. The fun part of being being an international organization, and sometimes the hard part of being an international organization, is when our alpha hunters or when our team are active is not necessarily the time that works for everybody. I mean, scheduling this call when I'm in Tel Aviv, right, has been enough of a time period. Imagine that for people all over the world in every country trying to make sure that they're on time for the right mint. So we're excited and wanting to see how that all goes through. And then there's the public raffle on Thursday. A big goal for Gen 3 is expanding Monkedao in general to include more people who right now may be priced out or not have the opportunity to, drop $4,000 or $5,000 on an NFT. We really want to focus on like how we can be an organization that not only helps push Solana forward, but also people can feel like they're a part of. And keeping it to the 5,000 original NFTs didn't really seem to do that. We sourced, the ideas around tokens, different ways that people could end up, getting scholarships or join the DAO. And what we really focused on is the idea of the public raffle. So you have the opportunity to mint a ticket. If you don't win the raffle, you get your money back, outside of a small non-refundable fee, for how we're organizing the smart contracts. And then basically, we're excited to welcome in 4,000 new monkeys from that organization. I'm super excited to mint a ton of the things in the raffle, and hopefully I get lucky. But we're really wanting to make it so instead of what we've seen previously with a bunch of different organizations getting all of the whitelists or any of these things getting massive pre-sale to existing communities that maybe we have partnership with, this is something for everybody on Solana who wants to be a part of Monkedao has the opportunity. I think that helps us transition a little bit more from being a gated exclusive community to being a little bit more inclusive for Solana in general. And we're excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think I think it's definitely interesting. I mean, I've seen like a lot of people on Solana like kind of raise like questions about like Gen 3 and like will it dilute the original Gen 2, and I'm just like kind of curious like what your opinions are of that. Like by creating a cheaper entry, do you think that it will end up hurting the Gen 2 bags, or do you think that maybe it will end up upsetting holders like long term?
Yeah, that's, a tough question and one that's hard to answer, right? How do you have this massive exclusive community and then open up more slots and not have the situation of dilution? That just doesn't make sense. If you're adding more people to an organization, everyone is going to feel like diluted in some way, shape, or form. And the reason to go about this is the focus of the SMB Gen 2 right now is being this digital artifact on Solana. It's representative of a very specific time period and part of the Solana NFT cycle. What it does and the utility of it is access to Monkedao and is the use of it as a governance token for what the DAO does, right? One monkey is, and especially is going to be with the updates that we're doing to our voting process, is going to be equal to a vote that allows you to have a governance interest inside of a foundation that is designed to earn profit, do positive things inside of the ecosystem, run a venture syndicate, run a grants program, et cetera, right? Like that part of the SMB Gen 2 is not being diluted. What is changing is that now there is a more accessible way to join the DAO. And for some people, the DAO only really exists as a way for them to talk to other people, for them to get pre-sales or whitelists to other projects, for them to go to events around the world. And that part of it is probably going to get diluted until we look at, what is the difference between Gen 2 and Gen 3, because these aren't the same exact thing. Gen 2 is always going to have priority access and the most benefits to everything that Monkedao does. You're going to see this right now with the stuff that we rolled out for the Banana Stand, which is our project with Interlace around rewarding and gamifying social media interactions with Monkedao. And right now, those are earning you points that we call bananas, and points are going to have significant amounts of use in everything that we're doing over the course of the next little bit as we keep rolling these things out and getting it ready to go. Gen 3 is still going to have access to the Discord. Gen 3 is going to have, some access to Monkey Ventures. It's going to have access to stuff that we would be doing with, say, Monkey Play. But Gen 2 is always going to be this grail. The thing that Gen 3 is exciting about is there's a lot of changes and improvements in Solana's NFT space that have happened in the last 2 years. For most people, they probably haven't noticed the changes to the Metaflex NFT standard, other than cost fluctuations and the difference that things are going in the P NFT kind of system. But with the advent of a lot of projects like like the Boots protocol, with the updates to compressed NFTs, with how we look at soulbound NFTs and these things that are changing, we can't access a lot of these things with Gen 2 because we don't want to change the fact that it's a digital artifact. Like these are designed to be things that people look at as art on chain, that people look at as history, and you don't want us to be changing that, right? Like as much as people might have comments around masks or the cigarettes or pipes or any of these different things in the collection, the DAO has always voted to not change anything around this. And now that we have control over the collection and the update authorities, even though we could change things with Gen 2, and we in fact did by moving them to PNFTs, the vast majority of the NFT is staying where it is and isn't being changed. And so Gen 3 allows us to explore all of these different new areas, work on the things that we want to see for something that we are creating as a DAO, and make it so that it's a lot more positive for members inside of the DAO who want to see things like maybe mutable traits, if that's something that they're interested in. People who are interested in the idea of changing not only the art but also on-chain metadata, and turning these into assets that exist outside of one particular NFT standard. There's a lot of different ways that we can start editing and changing these things, and we want to give ourselves the ability to not only develop new things for Solana NFTs, but to take advantage of what other teams are building for Solana. And we just can't do that with SMB Gen 2, because I think that destroys a lot of what people find valuable about it. So Gen 3 is the experiment. It's the playground. It's the thing of you getting to wake up and be excited around like, what are they going to do with Gen 3 next? Where Gen 2 is designed for people who are focusing on the governance aspect of Monkedao, who want the premier access to everything that we are going to be doing and are interested in, these digital collectibles and gaining access to stacking these more and more. Which is something that we haven't really focused on either, is the idea of what does it mean to own more than one monkey? And I think you're going to see a lot of changes around that in the very near future.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a smart way to think about it. Whereas, like, sometimes you see other projects that are just expanding and, like, they don't have as much planned out. I think it's going to create an environment where the people that do hold a Gen 2 will be, like, more inclined to participate. Like, sometimes, like, people buy NFTs, they sit in the Discord, or they just kind of wait, they collect, like, whitelists, like, kind of passively. But whenever they actually, like, the project releases something, getting the people that actually own the NFT to, like, get involved and, like, help push it on socials, like, sometimes can be a struggle for, like, a lot of projects. And I think that's where, like, a lot of projects lack. But now that there's going to be, like, a whole another group basically coming in to the Discord, I think it's going to make the Gen 2 holders, like, kind of buckle down a little bit and, like, get involved with the governance. And if they don't want to do that, then they'll end up probably selling and letting somebody else that does want to, which I think ultimately long term will help it, tremendously.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I pointed out when I was choosing violence on Twitter for ICE is the idea that a lot of DAOs have this perceived issue with free riders, right? Like people who are not spending every hour of the day focusing on optimizing the DAO and improving it in some way, shape, or form. Um, and that is only a problem, right, if you think that everybody is joining a DAO for the exact same reason. Um, Monkedao in the Gen 2, I think, really pushed itself for project founders, for high-level traders, for people who are interested in expanding their space inside of Solana, for lack of better terms. And the side effect of that is most of those people are incredibly fucking busy because they're busy making their own projects. They're busy focusing on these things going forward. Like the Kaleno team is a great example of this. For me, it's like they're not focused on what does it mean to take part in DAO governance. They're focused on making incredible animations and things that people are going to love and expanding their own community. That doesn't mean that we can't do cool things together. Like when we were a part of the Sardinas experience in Lisbon of last year, or in Lisbon for Breakpoint last year, but the vast majority of their time is not going to be focused on Monkedao, and that's not a problem, right? Like that's something that is good, and we should be celebrating, and we're super glad to have them as a part of the community. But we need to temper our expectations of like, what does it mean for someone to be a member of Monkedao? And turning our core offering into two core offerings, right? The ability for people to be passive members who are focused on large scale issues inside of Monkedao, who are interested in collecting these NFTs because they resonate with them, allows us also to say, okay, if the goal now is to get a much more active community on Twitter or Telegram or Discord, if the goal is to figure out what it means to be incredibly active as a partner to the teams that are choosing to trust us, like Rebase or any of the other teams that are working with us as the NFT partner projects, right? It means that we can curate the experience towards these two different groups instead of the experience that I think right now a lot of people have with Monkedao is they feel like they don't have time to take advantage of all of the offerings because we've been trying to build as many things as possible so that people have all of the options in the world. And what that leads to, I think, is options paralysis. At the best case, where it's like, I don't know if I need to go be involved in DAO pool or figure out how I can help, Solana scale in that way, or if I need to figure out how we can develop more free open source voting tools, or just focus on trying to out type Joey and DJ Mints. Like we don't know what the person who buys a monkey really wants to do until they tell us and they explain to it why they're joining the part of the Discord. And changing it into two different offerings means that the user gets to start choosing what they want to do, and we can start having a much better idea of like how we are offering these things for them right at the time of transaction rather than delaying it to whenever they join and talk to myself or Super Simon or Undy or any of the amazing Monkey Patrol people or anyone who's just sitting in the community as well, getting ready to excite people. It makes our job a lot easier by splitting these into two different areas, and I think it's also going to improve the experience that most people have when they join Monkedao, which is always top of mind.
Yeah, no, I think you raise a lot of good points, um, especially from people kind of worried about freeloading in a DAO. Some people are going to buy like 10, 20 monkeys and just sit there and not do anything with them, right? It's more like an investment for them more than it is like an activity and an active participation in the DAO. And, everybody has a different reason for buying a monkey, right? Some people just literally just want the PFP. They think the PFPs are cool. Um, they like the historical significance. They like the provenance. Maybe they want to participate in the DAO. Maybe they want to network with people, with successful, important people in the crypto space. Not only in the crypto space, right, but in the Web2 space as well. Um, but like you were saying, everyone joins for different reasons and may not have as much participation as the next guy, right? And that's perfectly okay. And I like the example you gave with Cleanosaurus, and how they have created a top project on Solana with unbelievable animations, right? Like of really really high quality. And we're happy to have them on Solana. Um, but backpedaling a little bit to the Gen 3 mint. So to my understanding, there was a third party that bought out the SMB IP from the original devs, and then Monkedao came and bought that IP from that third party. So can you talk a little bit about that and I guess how you plan to pay off that debt? I guess would you even call it a debt?
Yeah, I definitely call it a debt right now, especially with the situation that we're in. So to give anybody background who might not have exposure on this, the SMB project was made by an original development team, who I think everyone just kind of colloquially calls the SMB team, and they created a very successful product early on and had an idea around the roadmap and the things they wanted to develop, and the ways that they were pushing it out and what they wanted to lead in their community. And as the Solana NFT space kind of evolved around them, I don't think that what they wanted to do with the project matched what the community wanted them to do. And that's where you saw or probably have heard about a lot of the friction between the DAO and the original development teams. And we've gone from working directly together for the promotion of the project at certain points, like April of last year when we were figuring out ways that we were sharing royalties between the DAO for the things that it wanted to do versus the community fund that they wanted to set up to allow individual members to promote or develop certain things for SMB as a brand. And that relationship hasn't always been smooth, and I have a pretty strong part in some of the ups and some of the downs in that side of it. And that's a very big part of trying to understand like who is responsible for the success of something, whether it was Monkedao or whether SMB was being led by the development team. It's always going to be a topic of conversation, and I'm sure that many of the people listening to this will have many opinions that they will be looking forward to sharing with me. What this boiled down to was the SMB team fielded a number of different offers around a buyout or an acquisition. That's where the conversations around different entities, whether it was Monkedao or anybody else, may have tried to acquire them in the past. But the team that actually ended up doing it was HG and the Hades DAO as an organization. So that happened earlier this year. Hades acquired pretty much everything around SMB, including like legal trademarks, IP, everything in regards to that. And they were working towards pushing it together for the Hades ecosystem and making SMB be a part of that. And I think the way that it went and the reaction from the community very early on kind of proved that that wasn't what we were looking for. We weren't trying to, and I say we as SMB holders, and I understand that that's speaking for an entire group when people probably had different ideas around it. But I don't think the broader monkey holder community wanted to be a part of a specific DeFi protocol like Hades Swap. And we just had a lot of issues inside of the community with arguments and the future of kind of the Monkedao as an entity and where we wanted to push these things going forward. The way that it ended up shaking out was Monkedao made a proposal to Hades to purchase everything around SMB for a total of $2 million US. That was ratified by the Hades DAO and voted on using their token. And then we turned that into an agreement of basically Hades DAO would provide a list of things, related to SMB as a brand and all of the related associated projects, and Monkedao would provide funding. So the first part of that has already been put into a multi-sig, which is managed by myself, HG, and Soul Big Brain, who was very generous and put up the capital required for Monkedao to complete this. And then the remaining capital, the vast majority of that is coming from the SMB Gen 3 mint. So this is a mint that is designed to raise funds so that the DAO as an entity and all of the holders who are a part of that DAO have legal ownership, not only of the NFTs, but the general brand that represents it. And we do this in kind of a wrapper foundation where you as a holder, right, you have a governance interest inside of that foundation, you have a voting right, and you're allowed to make decisions on where those things go, which is the best version that we've kind of found for making a DAO on chain into a company and an organization in real life. So right now we are in the process of doing the Gen 3 mint as a way to raise funds to pay off that remaining debt. And I mean, it is a debt, right? We have a deadline, we have payment terms, and we're working towards making it so that what the community voted for, which is for us to offer this amount of money, we're able to fulfill our side of it. We've looked at different fundraising methods. The DAO has always been looking at different ways of making money and, being able to not only pay contributors, but also increase its operating revenue. And for us, we realized that the expansion of Monkedao, which is something that we've been talking about for a while, could be timed in the same way where we can also raise funds from the general Solana community, from people who have wanted to join at a certain price point, and get access to all of the things that Monkedao offers, while also fulfilling, our obligations as part of purchasing this IP.
Yeah,
I think it's super important to recognize that, like, this is an interesting situation of two DAOs coming to a legal agreement around like IP transfer, which I don't think has happened before. Like there's the Galactic Geckos purchase of the IP around the project, which happened previously. There's a few other DAO organized takeovers, but I think kind of the way that this was structured was one of the kind of the first of its kind.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
people realize like how big this really is, especially just $2 million. I think Galactic Geckos they offered like 1 million, right? They like came out of nowhere. I remember like reading on the timeline or something.
Yeah, genuine articles and Trap, and there were other teams as well who offered support. They kind of just came in from the top rope and were just like, "Hey, here's an offer for purchasing the entirety of the project." And obviously, they have experience with buying an asset from another party and turning it into a profitable revenue generating organization. As those guys say, job isn't done, and they're constantly working on improving the geckos. So seeing that they, believed in the same way about Monkedao's community, I think was really the push that a lot of people needed to support something like this, because having someone who is in a similar situation in terms of a community wanting to take over a project, um, saying that we're doing things the right way and that we're on the right track, maybe we're just arguing over price, is it's a good thing to see, and I'm super thankful for their support. I know that didn't end up going through in terms of their purchase agreement offer, but nonetheless, like, they're great monkeys, and we're super glad for their support for Monkedao.
yeah. I think a lot of people are sitting comfy knowing Monkey DAO has full ownership over SMB, and I think that's what a lot of people wanted for probably since the creation of SMB, and then a few months after. I mean, the creation of Monkey DAO, and then a few months after, where there was friction, like you were saying, between the SMB team and Monkey DAO, and the direction where people thought it should be heading in. Um, what do you think about people's reactions to the Gen 3 art? Right, I personally like it a lot. I think there was a few iterations I saw going around, floating around on Twitter. Um, I think it's like the perfect blend between sticking or staying true to, I guess, the original monkeys, but giving it a nice upgrade with more vibrant and happy colors, which I think is something that Utes did really well, right? Like if you look at the entire like palette of colors, it's just happy colors. It makes you like happy to look at, right? Like it's just like, I don't know how to put into words, but it's some art can look like gloomy and dark and just like not pleasant almost, right? Um, but these monkeys, you just like, you want to cuddle with them. So I think the pixel artist did a really really good job. And I know there was a little bit of backlash on Twitter, and people were like, you should change this. There's some, you should tweak this. But I think in the end, it came out really really well. Like even looking at your PFP right now, I really love the way it looks. Um, but what is your general, I guess, understanding consensus of how everybody was um, thinking about how this would turn out?
Yeah, I think the issue is always going to be around like how attached people are to the Gen 2 and the art style, right? Like, I mean, Ice, you're a great example, right? Like the NFT becomes a part of your lifestyle and your brand and your identity, and anything that
Yeah.
either seeks to emulate it or change it in some way, you're always going to compare it to this thing that you have an immense emotional attachment to. So backlash is natural. It's not something that I think we shy away from at all. And I really want to give a lot of props to TWX and then Xeno, who came onto the team, as well as everybody on the Gen 3 team who has been working on not only the color palette, but also like the general overview. It's taken a lot of iterations from inside of the community. There's a whole tail, no tail debate that I think is still going to be raging on for a while. And the goal basically is like, how do we create something that has that same feeling of, a cozy monkey that you want to cuddle, and something that, you can buy merch on, you can see on a billboard, you can, resonate with as being this core part of Solana, but also make a new version, right? Like, and a lot of people probably looked at the first versions and were like, "Wow, another pixelated monkey!" Like, and we're underwhelmed. But the Gen 3 team really took all of the feedback, which was literally hundreds of responses from people around like what they should be changing. A bunch of artists like John Lay and Marcolino and Zeno all reached in and gave their opinions on it. A ton of people were involved around like the improvements to the color palette. I think Bungle did a lot of different reworks as well, and it turned into something that I think the whole community is very excited around and wants to be a part of for the future. I mean, I think people are always going to argue about pixel art and what versions they want. I think
Yeah.
there's, the goal is always to try and satisfy a ton of people. And the important thing to know about Monkedao is like, it is kind of designed by committee, right? We're going for something that appeals to the members inside of Monkedao, and the current holders of the SMB Gen 2. So people who don't currently hold an SMB Gen 2 might have opinions on the art, right? And might want to see things be different or changed. But they don't really have a voice right now in terms of our governance system and our and the
Yeah.
way that we make a lot of these different decisions, right? So we appreciate feedback, and we always want to hear, what people are looking for, especially in something that's designed to be around an expansion and bringing people into the community. But we design things for the people in our community right now.
Right.
And we made voting and decisions and everything based around the Gen 3 for that specific reason, because of what people in our community brought up as things that they would like to see, changes that they want made. And I mean, I think the Gen 3 team has done a great job of taking all of that feedback and turning it into a product that I think everybody really wants.
Right. No, I respect that. I think it's turned out to look really, really good. Like, it's hard to look at the SMB Gen 2 mint and then look at the creations and the PFP influence that they had on Solana, and then try to not necessarily replicate it, but make a almost a better looking PFP. And I think you've kind of done that, because I really like these a lot. I really like this final iteration that you have now. I like it a lot, and then I really like how the Monkedao put out the generator, right, where you can just like pick and choose the attributes and see how it would look like. I think that was really, really smart. It reminds me almost as the original Gen 2 mint, where they would just have a bunch of like random cycling monkeys, and you would see. I remember they had like that whole list of attributes and the percent rarity, and that's really more for like old mints, like summer 2021 mints, and that reminds me, or just gives me a lot of nostalgia. So I'm a sucker for that type of stuff. But yeah, I think it's the PFP is really well done. I don't think anybody should really be upset with it. Like at this point, I think it's really well done, truthfully. Um, and I just want to touch on one more point I forgot to mention previously. So, to my understanding, MonkeyDAO had put out a letter of intent to buy the SMB rights prior to HadeDAO's acquisition, right? So what happened then that HadeDAO swooped in, uh, bought IP rights? Was there, did something go on between um, your, I guess, MonkeyDAO and the SMB devs that deal fell through, or because I remember that was like a thing, right? Like this happened like maybe a year ago, maybe at this point, right? Um, and I know that there was a letter of intent, and that was supposed to happen or go through within the next few months of that happening. But I just know it didn't happen that way. So can you give us a little briefing on what happened then?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important to note that the SMB original development team, had signed a letter of intent, had been working with MonkeyDAO, and had been wanting to get to the point where they were able to, turn over responsibilities and everything around it to the DAO, assuming that we met their requirements and the part of the deal. Um, Late 2022 was a bitch and a half to try and raise money or to organize anything. And it felt like we kept getting really, really close to deals being closed and something would happen and then it would just fall apart. I think a combination of not only how we were approaching the SMB team, delays in the funding cycle, just in general, and then probably some community pressure and things that we were going on really culminated into a situation where the SMB original team decided that they would sell to someone who was a willing buyer and was able to move fast. And I think that's what the Hades organization was able to do. And our letter of intent was a non-binding agreement. We had signed it with them and organized it between the Monkedao community and the Hades team, or sorry, and the original SMB team. And I think Hades just made an offer and the dev team accepted it. And they were well within their rights to be able to do so. And I understand kind of the community frustration around like how it was handled. Um, Personally, I just ended up getting a message and being like, "Hey, by the way, this has been sold. Uh, here's the here's the
Sheesh.
situation and the way to do it." And like, I mean, I think everybody can turn this into like they swooped it or they moved in faster, and it's I mean, I think it's the margin call line, right? It's a willing buyer at the fair market value. Like these are how deals are done. This is an asset that people have wanted to buy that, you had multiple people stepping up over the course of months trying to make deals and organize things, and somebody else closed it faster than they did or faster than we would have been able to, just because they had the funds on hand and they were willing to make it. Um, I mean, I think it's always easy to be bitter and say we were super close and we were, ready to do it. Um, because I was on the negotiating team and I was working with it, trying to raise funds and organizing capital and bringing people together who really wanted to support Monkedao in this bid attempt, and then it fell through. Right, somebody else moved first, and that's always going to be a risk in the market. You can't hold that against another team that was able to just operate a little bit better than you were able to. I'm glad it worked out in the way that Monkedao now has control over the SMB brand. I think our deal with Hades was fair for the price that they were asking and the way that it was being set up. And I genuinely hope that like the SMB team is happy with how it all played out. The biggest thing that I hope is not that anyone really walks away from all of this upset with how it's all played out, because you know it's business. We're all trying to survive in what's been a pretty punishing bear market, and we all make decisions based on the info that we have available. And I try not to take any of the stuff too personally, and I try not to make it into these interpersonal conflicts or these situations where we just end up blaming each other. It'd be like if I got mad at someone for buying an item on Tensor 5 seconds before I did. It's maybe I was really putting together the liquidity and I was excited about it, but it didn't happen. And that's unfortunately just kind of the game that you have to be willing to play.
Yeah. I think I kind of want to touch back, like kind of like knowing this now. If a majority of the mint funds from the Gen 3 are going towards paying back the debt, how much will you guys like roughly have left over? Like, do you think that it'll be enough to get you guys in like a more comfortable position to like just keep on like stacking up the money and stuff? Like, and also, are you guys going to enforce royalties on Gen 3 as well, and like kind of like maybe gate it to where they're like potentially not in the ecosystem if they're not paying royalties? Like, what are your guys' plans? Because I mean, with you guys spending most of the mint funds like paying back the debt to like fully secure it so you guys like have ownership, like I'm just wondering, what you guys will be able to do to like replenish the war chest.
Yeah, that's super fair to bring up. Like, if we put all this money into repaying a debt, how is the DAO going to function? And I mean, to kind of turn that back around, like Monkedao has offered on or has operated on relatively low funding for the course of the last 2 years. Like, obviously, we had a sole influx from the community fund, from the SMB team. We've had opportunities to make money and revenue from a variety of different sources, including what we do for DeFi and the things that we are making. Um, and we're the top collection in the ecosystem, right? Like, we didn't get access to the original mint funds. We had a small period of time where we were earning royalties based in the SMB Gen 2, and now we are based around PNFTs. Like, I think we're very good at making do with a little, and going to PNFT, which Gen 3 will be on permissioned NFTs, um, is still going to allow us to operate on a reasonable budget. This is not a Nom gets to go buy a boat kind of kind of mint, right? Like, we are going to be pulling this together so that we can pay contributors, that we can afford to pay more developers and members who are creating content for their time, and keep a lot of the talent inside of MonkeyDAO. And yeah, we're probably going to be working to make ends meet, and we're still going to be grinding as hard as we ever have been around the idea of, like, okay, how do we make it so that MonkeyDAO can be as positive of an organization as possible without nickel and diming our members to pay for everything. And this isn't a perfect solution, right? Like, the perfect solution is that we bought this back in April 2022, and Sol was $140. We would have been okay. Like, we even saw that a lot of our obligations are in USD, and we're going to be getting revenue in the form of Solana, which, a week ago, when Sol fell 30% overnight, is that's a stressful experience. Um, we're not trying to raise an incredible amount of money. I mean, it's millions of dollars. It is a large amount of money. But we're trying to do it in a way where we earn enough to work as MonkeyDAO and to be, worthy of the kind of the spot that we have inside of this ecosystem, without trying to just grind as much value out of the Solana community as a whole. Like, what we're spending, or sorry, what people are going to be spending is going not only to us to reinvest inside of the community and to pay people for their contributions to Solana, but also going back to, I think, someone who is one of the key figures on Solana, which is Big Brain. I think we're doing everything that we can to keep the vast majority of the funds inside of the ecosystem, rather than something that's probably just going to get wired to a centralized exchange and leave Sol forever, which has been a concern that other people brought up. Sorry, Fast. I think I skipped over a couple of the different questions that you had in there. Was there anything else that I can answer?
No, man. I mean, after all this, man, fuck it. You deserve a boat. I mean, this is like one hell of a fucking war story. And I think that there's a lot of people that come into the ecosystem that are like brand new, or, everybody's here to make money. I really feel like they've missed out on a lot of this fucking lore behind the entire story. And so, I mean, damn, it's been a fucking ride just hearing like all this. Like, I would not be mad if you got a boat, buddy.
I'll pull up to Amsterdam in like a rowboat and make some content out of that.
You
Would
gotta
be what I spend the earnings of the Gen 3 mint on.
you gotta reenact it like Sydney at the Magic Eden yacht, like, like we're hitting the fucking
Yeah.
sea. Or I forget what he said. It was something funny, but no, man, I think this is fucking crazy, and I guess that's probably where we'll wrap up everything here. But thank you guys for listening to the Good Price Show, where the price is always good. And we had Nam here. Thank you so much for coming on. All of your socials and links and stuff will be down in the description, and you guys should definitely check out Gen 3 Mint. I think it'll be in a couple of days by the time this video goes up. And if you guys miss it, like, obviously I would pick up on secondary. I think there's a very strong holder base there. But yeah, check out Iced, check out me, links down below. And thank you guys so much. Make sure to like and subscribe. And we should be back next week with another podcast. So thank you guys.
Thank you for having me, man, and really appreciate the opportunity to come in here. I hope we inspire a bunch of people to want to join Monkedao. And if you have any questions, like I'm always around somewhere. I'm happy to answer anything that people might have. And if you're building something cool in Solana and Monkedao can help, please let us know.
There you guys have it. Check them out.